But last night we had an election. I am going to get to Eric Kirk. I am going to get to all these other topics I want to talk about, but I do want to open with the election results from last night because they were absolutely what we expected to happen, and people are still wringing their hands. And so for answers about the election results from last night around the country, including Mamdani's win in New York, I want to take you back in time. Because by the time I'm finished with this monologue, not only will the election results make sense, the current political frustrations between the parties and within the parties. You saw the Ben Shapiro, Nick Fuentes meltdown. You saw all the fighting the last few weeks over Tucker Carlson. That also will all make sense. It should all start to make sense. But I want to go back in time for 30 years. I want to go back to 1994. And I'm doing this for a reason. So bear with me. Give me the 2 minutes to get this out of the way to set up the whole rest of the show. Don't get lost in the numbers I'm about to give you, because 1994 was just over 30 years ago. Your humble host was just 15 years old at the time. The median house back then, 130 grand. And at just under 2,000 square feet, nice starter home, right? Average families, median salary, $27,000. You're starting to do a little math in your head. I can see the wheels turning. The median house sold last year was $420,000. That's more than triple the cost. And only 10% more square footage, lest you think it's attributable to the McMansion phenomenon. It's not. The median salary has not tripled. It's barely doubled since 1994. Back then, there was a guy named Yoshiaki Tsutsumi. He was the richest man on earth in 1994. He was a Japanese businessman. He was worth about $8.5 billion. And if you just scoffed at that number because of the shocking wealth the richest people in the world have now, just understand at the time, Bill Gates was the second richest man on earth. Warren Buffett was third. Each had around $8 billion. The price of gold, an ounce, was $383. Today, the richest man on earth, Elon Musk. Up-to-date estimates put his wealth somewhere between $490 and $500 billion. That's $500 billion for those of you proficient in high numbers. So to compare the richest man on earth in 1994, Elon Musk's wealth is more than 57 times that of Tsutsumi fortune in 1994. In fact, there are 68 billionaires on earth today that have more money than the richest man on earth had in 1994. Price of gold, this is going to play into this. It's going to play into all the election things, so stay tuned to here. The price of gold is currently around $4,000, more than 10 times the price it was in 1994. To summarize, and I know some people right now are in dire need of a summary, so let me summarize, because I've just fired a bunch of numbers through the screen, and I don't want you to get lost. The richest people in society are getting much richer than ever before, and the rest of us are stuck trying to buy houses that are 3 times as expensive on twice the salary. And you'll notice that math doesn't add up. Can't do it. That math doesn't work. And the math doesn't work because of that random fact I threw in there about the price of gold. Priced in ounces of gold, houses are actually cheaper than they were in 1994, believe it or not. Cheapest house in, the median house, in 1994 was equivalent of 339 ounces of gold. Today it's just 105. Salaries follow the same pattern. 1994, the average salary equated to 70 ounces of gold per year. This year it's just 15 ounces of gold per year, meaning if you worked an entire year in 1994, you would have gotten 70 ounces of gold. If you work an entire year, this is median, an entire year this year, you only get 15 ounces of gold. And that's because gold is priced as a global commodity. And here's where I want to drive home the context that sets up last night's election results. The cheapest gold has been in my lifetime was in 2001. The summer of 2001, gold was $259 an ounce. That fall, we kicked off the global war on terror. Since the global war on terror, gold prices have been on a relentless climb. $260 an ounce back then, up to $4,000 an ounce and counting now. And to compensate, your standard of living has collapsed because gold's the great equalizer. It's a universal measuring stick. It doesn't lie. It will always be a shiny metal, yellow metal, and it will always tell you how weak or strong your national economy is, your national currency is. And by extension, it'll tell you how weak or strong is your standard of living. And important to you as you begin to age, as I get to my age, it will tell you how weak or strong is the future of your children and grandchildren. And because salaries have absolutely collapsed in terms of gold, nearly everything in society has become unaffordable. In 1994, you got 70 ounces of gold for your work. That's 70 ounces of gold worth to buy a house, to buy a car, health insurance, groceries, go on vacation, send your kid to college, maybe even save a little for a rainy day. Today, a year's salary, a median salary in the United States priced in gold is 21% of a 1994 median salary, meaning you get just 21% of the equivalent ounces of gold for your annual labor. That's why people can't buy a house. That's why they can't buy a car. They can't buy health insurance, go buy groceries, go on vacation, send their kids to college. They can't even think about saving a little for a rainy day. And there's one primary cause of the collapse of the U.S. dollar relative to gold. It's war. It's war. That's why gold has collapsed. It's war. We've spent trillions and trillions and trillions of American dollars on war since 2001. We fought nearly every country in the Middle East. Those we haven't fought, we've drawn up plans because we're going to fight them and likely fight them soon. We've spent and will continue to spend our nation's standard of living fighting wars that have no relevance to our way of life. We fought countries that pose no threat to our country. We've destroyed our future, our children's future, and our grandchildren's future to secure the future of others. That's what's meant by the term globalism. It's the exfiltration of wealth out of this country. It is managed American decline. That's the definition of globalism. Managed American decline. It makes a few hundred, maybe even a few thousand people disgustingly wealthy, and it destroys the rest of us. And this is why young people in particular, but a lot of people are turning to people like Mamdani for elected office. Honest people knew that last night Republicans did not have a chance in New York. They didn't have a chance in New Jersey. They didn't have a chance in Virginia. Those states are blue. So there's nothing to read into those election results relative to Trump or relative to the midterms coming up. Nothing at all. Politics are local, and they're particularly local when people are hurting. And they're hurting. And we can only ignore their hurting for so long. You've heard a lot of people terrified of Mamdani. I've seen it all over social media today. I've heard it all over the news channels. Mainstream political parties are telling you they're terrified of Mamdani for this, that Muslim, and he's got radical politics. I'm telling you right now, they're not scared of his Muslim faith. They're not scared of his radical politics. Just 2 months ago, former four-star general and head of the CIA, Stanley McChrystal, you remember him? He met with the Syrian leader Ahmed al-Sharaa in September and fawned all over him. For context, al-Sharaa was a leader with al-Qaeda before leaving them to go join ISIS. It's like leaving Coke to go fight for Pepsi. He's directly responsible for the deaths of untold numbers of Americans who were fighting him in war. And there he was on a stage in New York, hailed as a hero by the American general who was leading American forces in an American war using American dollars and losing American lives. And Stanley McChrystal hailed him as a hero after we spent trillions of dollars fighting him and people like him. So it's not his faith. It's not his radical national politics. It's not any of that that's causing the mainstream parties to lose their mind. That's not why they're freaking out over the election last night. It's the fact that his election, it portends the end of their gluttonous destruction of American capital. They've been raiding the pantry and looting America's storehouses for the last 3 decades. And Mamdani's election means people are finally getting sick of it. I have no idea what kind of mayor he'll be. I have no idea. And I have no idea what kind of governors were elected in New Jersey and Virginia. I know they're Democrats. That doesn't mean much these days. Democrats and Republicans are all kind of the same. It's us versus them. It's us versus them. If you're watching this, it's probably you and me and all of our friends watching this versus them. I mean, even Trump. Trump campaigned like Donald Trump, but he governs a lot like George Bush. My guess is these globalists who are destroying your way of life to enrich themselves are burning up the phone lines right now, trying to get all these newly elected officials on the phone. They'll be on planes in the coming days. And what comes of those meetings is anyone's guess. If the past is any guide, they'll all be bought off. They'll govern from the same milquetoast moderate positions while the labor of everyday Americans continues to produce less and less value for themselves and their families.